us, we have Alan Wake here, the best-selling writer the books, the films are based on. Let's do this!
So Alan Wake 2 is a really phenomenal game. Just straight up, it's a very good video game experience. If you haven't tried it, go try it. What it really manages to do is combine the Silent Hill franchise with Resident Evil. So it manages to have these really cool elements of both of these games, right? But what it particularly manages to do really well is combine the cinematic storytelling elements into the gameplay in a way that you don't really see this often in video games, and it's really very satisfying to see this cinematic experience combined into the gameplay elements that really pays off very well at the end.
A gun and flashlight. How nostalgic.
Alan Wake 2 starts off as a horror video game. It starts off as a Silent Hill type video game, but it transitions into something else entirely, where it manages to combine multiple genres of gaming in a very effective way, that it manages to tell a coherent story using different gameplay elements like fully acted cinematics with characters acting it out on stage, with Poets of the Fall returning as all gods of Asgard delivering this rock and roll performance, which is just one really amazing track after the next, while you have the player doing these things that will get you to the next chapter. It's beyond mind-blowing how amazing some of these sequences are and how efficient some of these sequences can be in conveying these themes to the player. Alan Wake 2 is probably the best looking video game I've played all year, and it's not just that it's the best looking video game I've played all year, it's what I can describe is the A24 experience of a video game. What I mean by this is that Alan Wake 2 manages to use the visual elements present in the video game, the cinematics, to really immerse the player into the video game experience, where you have some sequences that have you just mind blown. The story of Alan Wake 2 takes place roughly 13 years after the original events of Alan Wake 1. We still have Alan Wake himself still trapped in the Cauldron Lake underneath Bright Falls, right? And he is in this dark place trying to write a story that will help him get out into the real world. But this time around he also has his alter ego named Scratch, who is writing alongside Alan Wake in order to help Alan Wake escape into the real world with Scratch. So this entity itself, the dark presence, it also wants to go out into the real world with Alan Wake. In order to put an end to this, we have Saga Anderson, the FBI agent in the real world, who is investigating some cult murders which are linked to Wake himself. What's really cool about Alan Wake 2 is that it draws some heavy inspiration from True Detective Season 1, where we have these ritual cult murders in the same themes as the original True Detective Season 1 itself. So if you are a fan of True Detective Season 1, you will have a really good time with Alan Wake game as well. Even though Alan Wake manages to do a lot of things right, there are some shortfalls when it comes to things like the combat and the gameplay mechanics like the inventory management and stuff. I suppose this is something that Remedy has been working on for quite some time, and unfortunately, like with a lot of their other games, Alan Wake 2 has these same problems when it comes to combat. Sometimes the combat can be just extremely frustrating, where the enemies, they are just moving too fast and the characters are just reacting to this movement way too slowly. Or there are instances when the camera just pans into this weird angle and it's stuck there, so you don't really see the enemy coming or approaching, so you can't really respond to these things, and it's very frustrating because the character can die quite easily. The character can die in like a couple of hits, And one other thing that's really noticeable is how ineffective some of these guns are against these enemies. For instance, when you encounter the first real boss of the game, you have this handgun which can prove to be quite ineffective, and the boss is somehow just soaking in all these bullets. So it can be quite frustrating when you are in this position against this overpowered enemy with all these buggy mechanics that are contributing to your demise in this game. So one of the shortfalls in Alan Wake is largely the combat mechanics and the inventory aspect of the game, where it can be quite difficult to toggle between the items, and in order to use them you have to equip them and hold a certain button for quite some time in order to use some of these health items and whatnot. So those aspects of Alan Wake 2 can be quite frustrating. So there you have it. Alan Wake 2 is a very good video game. It's an extremely good video game that offers you the narration, the storytelling in a very artsy, in a very different, unique perspective that you don't normally see in the gaming industry. Despite how great the game is, despite how great the story is told, how artistic it is, how visually stunning it is, or how great it sounds, how good it looks and feels, there are some shortfalls in Alan Wake 2 when it comes to the combat and some of these stuff that are associated with combat, like the inventory and etc. But overall, I would say Alan Wake is a must-play game for this year. This is one of the best video games I've played all year. This is one of the most beautiful looking video games I've played all year, and this is also one of the most unique video games that I've played all year. So if you haven't played Alan Wake 2, go play it. It's an extremely good game that offers you an unforgettable gaming experience.
The song will show me the way.
Look in the mirror, the cobweb of my soul. My face